So welcome to the Teach the Content session, Building a Rockstar Team. And this is one of the modules that I think is incredibly important for one-man businesses, mostly because so many one-man businesses have never even considered having a team. So we're often taking them into some new thinking here and thoughts that they didn't actually think that they would be doing. So, but I think they're very important considerations that need to be thought of by any one-man business. So I love teaching this particular topic. If you go into your Dropbox, you will find it under folders. Everything that, all the programming that you would use with a client is in folder 3. So number 3, running the mastermind program. There's actually a whole folder called Business Builder Lecture Guides, and they're all there. So I have full 10 modules, and we have a bonus module 11 as well. So module 10, Building a Rockstar Team, is the next one in our series. And we have just a couple of things we're going to go through here. But the main topic is, to think about what type of business you're trying to build, because there's nothing wrong with building a one-man business, but I think you at least need to have the thought, do I always want a one-man business, or am I trying to make something bigger? We talk about when to start building your team. We talk about the art of delegating, and we talk about building, if you do want to build a bigger team, some of the considerations like your team structure and managing the team. We talk a little bit about hiring, and some of the other options you have to hiring. So that's really what's in this particular module. So we start off with thinking about what are we creating, and for whatever reason, I would like to just take half a sec here I don't think I'm showing you the updated version. I meant to. Give me a sec, guys. I'm just going to go into a slightly more updated version. It's not what's in the workbooks yet, but it will be in the next release. So bear with me. I'm going to switch to. There are not many changes, but there are some. So let's just teach from the right one. Okay, so we're starting off by just looking at what type of business are you creating. And one of the things that we've always called it, a standalone business, but I really like to call it a freelance model, because I think that's a correct term for it. If you're working all on your own, you're kind of a freelancer. And most one-man businesses that we work with actually do fall into the freelance model. I think the question is, do they want to stay there, or are they actually hoping to get to a different level? Let me zoom out a little bit. So, and there's pros and cons with both. Like everything in life, there's no one answer, and no, this fits everybody. So the freelance model, really the biggest advantage of it is its freedom. Okay, it doesn't cost you a lot. You don't have a lot of encumbrances. You're not taking a lot of risk. You're not investing in a whole big team. You can make a living. I do want to say that advisedly, though, because I do think you can make a living, but you can't make an amazing, incredible living 100% by yourself. It takes a village. So you can get by, but generally, a bigger team is going to be able to provide a better income for you. It's flexible, and this is probably the thing that so many people love, is that you can do it around children and vacations and school years, and if you're wanting to travel, or you want to work from Rome, or whatever the case. So the flexibility is one of the huge advantages, freedom and flexibility. And the other thing about the freelance model is you do what you love. If you like baking cookies, well, then you start a cookie company. So, and in the early days when it's just you really are doing the thing that you love. The pros of well, let me do the cons of that first. The cons of the freelance model is your time is all used up, in trying to make a living. You are it. So if you get sick, lose your voice, take a vacation, the business stops, and no work equals no pay. Okay, so that's actually one of the downsides of the freelance model. Is exactly the same as the upside. You've got a lot of freedom, but when you're not working, nothing's happening. And that's very appealing to a lot of people. It's one of the things that's made Uber so successful is, you know, the guys love being able to decide, okay, I'm going to work between 6 and 9 tonight, and that's it for today. But if they're not working, they're not getting anything. I think, to me, one of the biggest cons that I've seen of the freelance model is I haven't met people that there's a limit. It will get to a certain level and then it will stop, and in terms of earning ability. And I call that the ceiling of a rugged individuality. Okay, it's just, this is what I can do on my own, and it does have a ceiling. It's very different. I mean, some people can't make more than 30,000 on their own, and some people can't make more than $1 million on their own. But I've never seen somebody making 10 million on their own. And I've actually, you know, when I just look back over all the clients we've coached, I've only seen one person go into multiple six figures on her own. And she was in a pretty bad way. She'd been working herself to actually to a standstill, to be honest. So most people that are even in six figures, just tipping into 100,000, in actual fact have got part-time help already. It's not just them anymore. So the pros of the corporate business model is you really have a chance to get out of the business. So in other words, your staff can do the work and you can get out. Your time can free up if you do it right. So if you're good at delegating and you're good at bringing on good people, you can get out of the business. You're able to do more with the business. You can sell it, you can IPO it, you can, you know, you just have other options. You don't have to always be, it doesn't stop if you leave. There's no particular earnings ceiling here. And you get to be the CEO of the company, so you get to do it your way. The cons are there are many obligations, okay? The minute you have a team on board and expensive systems and processes and so on, you have a lot of mouths to feed and people are depending on you for payroll. So you lose a lot of the freedom and flexibility that you used to have in a much smaller freelance model. So your responsibility level goes up enormously. And what some people complain about here is instead of doing what they love, they're managing a company, you know, so it feels a lot more like working in corporate America, I think. But in terms of earning capacity, it really is unlimited. So I think that's just something to know. And something we tuck into the lecture guide here, because we've noticed so many of your clients are going to be very surprised by this. When people start out businesses, they have no idea what's normal in terms of cost. So many of them think, well, if I earn 100,000, I'm going to take home 100,000. And it sort of shocks them to realize that in many service-based businesses, that's not even close to the truth. You know, your marketing costs and your setup costs are high. And many service-based businesses are taking out just 10% profit or 35% profit, and the rest is all cost of doing business. For our client base, in other words, when they really are still a freelancer, you would expect that number to be higher. You know, if it's just them and they don't have staff, you'd expect them to be able to keep at least 50% of what they're earning. But the minute they start hiring in staff, that number starts changing quite quickly. I mean, you know, it drops to about 35% almost instantly when they start building their team. So I think it's just good to warn people of that so that they set their guidelines in the right place and don't underestimate, you know, how much they're actually going to take home at the end of the day. So, you know, one of the biggest questions that you will get asked as a business coach is when to start building your team. And when you're running your Date with Destiny, it would be nice to open this up for debate and say to them, okay, guys, when do you think you should start building your team? And our 4 phases of business, this is a chart that I seem to pull out on every single occasion I can think of. But it really does help for your clients to see which phase of business they're in. And the simple question is, are you consistently making sales, yes or no? And do you have a solid team and systems in place, yes or no? So the first thing you notice is that having a team and systems in place is one of the differentiators between people that are expanding and thriving and people that are just starting out. So, and you shouldn't be building a huge team or systems if you aren't consistently making sales, because why? Why should you not start building a solid team before you're making sales? Anybody? This will be a good question to ask your mastermind group. Thank you, Katie. Go ahead.
You have no money to pay them. You're
right.
You're not selling, then you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball as a business.
Right, and you'd be amazed how many people do that, by the way. I mean, I'm often amazed by somebody who's got zero revenue coming in the gates, who's actually doing some pretty solid hiring and having people there. And, you know, not to say that you can't do that. Of course you can. You need to be pretty risk tolerant, and you need to have investment dollars to do that, because otherwise, you know, the safer way that most service-based businesses grow is they take a percentage of their revenue and they put that towards building their team and their systems. If you have investors, or you want to make a start-out investment in your business of, say, 50,000 or something, then you might be able to hire. But in general, you do not have proof of concept of your business yet if you aren't consistently making sales. So once you're consistently making sales, you can afford to take some risks, because you know how to get money coming in the door. You can ramp that up, you can work harder, you can do more, and, you know, so you feel a bit safe. If you're still in startup, it's just a bad time to be taking risks. So I would be limiting your costs enormously during startup and trying to get to a point where you can say yes to the question, are you consistently making sales? So I think it's just an interesting discussion for them to see where they are. You know, once you get into expand phase, you have to start building a team, or you will hit the ceiling of rugged individuality and you'll stop kind of around there. You're going to have to start teaming up. And you can see that the thrive place comes once you have a team and systems, because you can go and take nice, long, juicy vacations and there'll be people to do the work. It's not always you who's on. So, all right. So let's keep going there. One sec. I just need to fix my panel a little bit here on GoToWebinar. All right. So much of the things that are going to start separating the men from the boys is the art of delegating. And one of the little books that really inspired me is, you know, Robert Kiyosaki. He is very famous for writing Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I actually loved this book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, vastly more. I thought it was just a really interesting book on financial freedom, which is, you know, one of the core values of most entrepreneurs, by the way. So I do recommend this book. But one of the more interesting concepts that he talks about here, which I think is very germane for this discussion about, are you building a corporate style business or a freelance style business, is his cash flow quadrant, which is this ESBI. And E stands for people that get employed. They go and get jobs at sensible places and get vacation, and if they're lucky, a pension and a medical insurance plan. The self-employed is this group here. And this is really the freelance model, the self-employed model. And so this is what he calls the left side of the quadrant. And then the right side of the quadrant is business owners. And by business owner, I love the way he defines a business owner. He says a business owner is somebody who can go away for 6 months and come back richer. And I think it's a really smart way to define the difference between a business and a freelance model. So business means you have solid employee assets that can take care of the work if you're not there. And then the I is the investor. And he calls it, you know, the wealth people on the right side of the quadrant. And he calls, you know, people who are never going to be particularly wealthy are the people on the left side of the quadrant, which, by the way, includes the self-employed or freelance model. And for better or for worse, Robert Kiyosaki says that the S crew, the freelancers, are the hardest working people on earth and the most stuck financially people on earth. So I'm going to open it up for a couple of comments from everybody. Let me put everybody's hands down. Does anybody have any comments about that? That these guys are the hardest working people on earth and they can be financially stuck and they're on the poor side of the quadrant. Anybody want to make any comments? I didn't really like hearing that when I read it, I have to admit, but I thought about it a lot. But I think it probably is true that these guys work very hard, okay, because they don't have anybody to help. So in some ways, these guys are fearful of taking a chance. These guys are not fearful of taking a chance, but what gets people stuck in freelance mode is the belief that nobody can do things as well as them. And that's really what stops them from moving over into the B and the I. So I don't think as coaches that it's our job to tell our clients whether they want to be a S or a B or a I. But I think it's worth taking them down the path where they make a decision as to which one is a better fit for them. And I, for one, would rather be on the right side of the quadrant where I can get away and have some freedom than on the left side of the quadrant. So, so most of my efforts are in trying to take the S to become more of a B. And honestly, one of the other things this book did for me personally was it made me sit and think about the assets that I already had and get much more proactive in managing them. And I just share this with you because it's probably good advice for all of us, but he said, you don't want to be the business owner who is so busy running their business that they ignore all of their assets. And that landed on me in a really painful way because I read it at a time in my life where I did have assets and I wasn't really doing much to invest them in a smart way, and it probably cost me a fair bit, and I've since rectified it. But anyway, I did want to share that with you, and I think it's a helpful discussion for you to bring up in your Dates with Destiny about people. And remember, when you are working with them, there's no judgment. The freelance model is right for some people, and the business owner model is right for some people. I think all we're trying to accomplish is to try and give them and there's times in your life, when you are, let's say when you're a mom of, 2 boys under 10, you really might want some of the freedom that comes with being a freelancer. You might be prepared to forfeit earnings for some of the freedom and the ability to just, do what you want to do. So it's an interesting chart and a book that I would recommend. But if you are going to bring on people and you are going to delegate, what always comes up is, what not to delegate and what to delegate. And the things that should never be delegated are anything in your genius zone. And your genius zone really is defined by the things that you are excellent at and things that you're passionate about. So that's really your genius zone. You have both excellence and passion. And they're not always the same thing. I don't know how many of you know this. I swam backstroke for my state when I was in high school. I absolutely hated backstroke. It terrified me. I was always scared I was going to knock my hand on the edge of the pool. I had water up my nose. It was not my genius zone at all. I just happened to be excellent at backstroke. But I hated it. So that is not an idea of your zone of genius. That's a zone of excellence. And, that's still good use of your time. But your genius zone are really things that you're passionate about and excellent at. So you never want to delegate those because that's actually it's honestly what makes you at your most attractive. And I encourage or maybe challenge all of you to think and get closer to the place of knowing what your zone of genius is. And for those of you who know, I'd love you to put it in the comments panel because it's just really nice if you've got to a place where you know where you're excellent and excited and passionate. But the other thing that you want to be careful about delegating or not delegate is not fully is everything that grows your business. So, so I would never entirely delegate marketing, sales, or finances, not completely, because all of them are essential for growth. You might delegate day-to-day management and task management and so on, but you want to keep oversight in that area. That's just important. But the things that can be delegated, as and when your business can afford it, are really the things that are outside your zone of genius. And I would start with the things that you are least competent at or dislike the most. So anything that you truly hate, those are some of the best or are really bad at. Those are really good things to delegate. Like my admin is bad enough that I do everybody a favor when I don't do admin. And you guys already know you don't want me proofing documents or spell checking because I won't do a good job. So I hope that helps you think about what to delegate really. And let me look at the question panel and see if anybody knows what their zone of genius is. So Katie, it's lovely. Your excellent zone is selling. You love it and you're passionate about it. And she's been doing, and funny enough, she's been doing it since she was a little girl. And she's just always been born in her. And, you often see that with a zone of genius. It's always been there in some form or another. It's something that you've always really had a good time doing. So thank you for that. Making sales approachable for business owners. That's cool, Katie. So Katie's the only one who answered there. It's often quite difficult for people to find their zone of genius. And it's sometimes a work in progress. I think as you get older and more, it's almost a journey to discover the places where you are most passionate and most competent. So, and Tina's sharing another book here today, Strength Finders, and she's used it with her clients to help them find their genius zone. So, and she does know hers. So yeah, so the Strength Finders book is amazing for that. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Tina does have special skills in helping people in that area. So, so thank you, Tina. That's a good reminder that that book can help people find their genius zone. And Jason's genius zone is speaking and creating connection. That's a really good genius zone to have. And Tony's is technology and speaking. That's a good combination, and it's kind of mine. So I love that. Good. All right. So so you guys know it would be nice when you run your Date with Destiny to have your guys discuss if they know or if that's still a journey for them. And Laura makes a really good comment here. She says sometimes I think people don't see their genius zone as they're so good at it they don't think it's special. Guys, that's very common. And I think the reason is because usually your genius zone is something you've been doing since you were a little girl. And, you know, it was quite interesting when I first started thinking about my genius zone and working on it. I was coaching with Dan Sullivan. And he made us do an exercise where we asked 12 people who knew us well to write what they thought our best points were and where they thought we could grow. It was a really good exercise. But I was quite bowled over to find that every single one of the people that I'd asked, every single one with no exceptions, mentioned something that they all thought I was really good at, which I was entirely unaware of, completely. And that was really surprising to me that I could be that unaware of it. And all of them saw it. So I think Laura's exactly right. And the thing is that when you live with something all your life, it just becomes your normal. So most of us don't actually know the things that we're best at, even though everybody else around us sort of can't believe that. So I understand you probably underestimate the things you're amazing at because they're easy for you and you've been doing them a long time. And the same is true of your clients. And one of the things I've ended up doing many times as a coach is saying to people, listen, you are amazing here. And they're often surprised. They're like, I am? Really? I am? You know, I didn't know that. So don't underestimate your ability to do this for your clients, is to see their own genius zone. So thanks for making that point, Laura. I think it's really relevant. So what we have in the workbook here is tasks to consider delegating, and you might do this as a little exercise in your Date with Destiny, is to go and have them run through these and say, am I passionate and am I excellent? So just go and check the ones that they're passionate, excellent. We kind of do this at the retreat in November. One of the exercises we do is we have people work a little bit on their genius zone. So yeah, given that it's September, probably don't do that. Let's save it for those people that are coming for the retreat. But it's a lovely exercise. This is a great little thing to do on stage as well, is to help people go and figure out what they should be delegating out of their life. And I always like to make the point, it's not always things in your business, because in your business, you know, delegating business skill can be expensive. But it's whatever takes up your time. So, I mean, if you're spending your time doing grocery shopping and cleaning your house and it's cheap and easy to delegate that, well, then those are the things you should delegate first, you know. So, because I don't know how many of you love housework. I don't. I'm a South African girl. I grew up with servants, I'm sorry to say, and it's ruined me for life. And while I love a really clean house, I detest, I mean, me cleaning floors is probably never going to happen. So those are things that I delegate really quickly. But you can see, you know, admin, you know, I would fire somebody who did admin the way I do admin if I'd hired them. I really am that bad. So that should really be my first thing to go. So it's just useful to look at it with that sort of a frame. And why do you think delegation is a fairly important thing for one-man businesses? Anybody? Come on, guys. Thank you, Tony. Let me open up your line. Give me a sec. Oh, you open up your line. Why is delegation important?
Well, because as you've already said, you cannot be good at everything, and you gotta have a life. You gotta be able to have some balance, and
Yeah.
otherwise you'll lose your marriage and your children and everything else.
Right. Thank you. You know, I mean, a one-man business is probably, what did Robert say about them? The busiest people on earth, or the hardest working people on earth. All of your biggest challenge is going to be how you manage your time. So one of the very most helpful things you can do for yourselves, and one of the very most helpful things your clients can do, is to get ruthless about their time. And part of it is just offloading the things that they hate doing anyway, so that they can do more of the things they need to be doing. But, you know, what do you think would happen if every one of your clients, every one of them, spent 4 hours a day, every day selling, every weekday selling? What would happen to your clients, Tony, if that's what they did?
They'd burn out.
Well, they would burn out, but there'd probably be some other good things. What if that's all they did? What if they spent 4 hours a day working and all they did was sell, and they did nothing else?
Got it. They would have progress. They would grow their business because they get better at selling, and they get to stumble upon some yeses until they got good at it, and they'd be more confident in their business.
I can guarantee you that if any business spends 4 hours a day selling, they will transform their financial outcome immediately. However, they're going to be spending, well, yeah, the reason none of us do that is because we're busy doing things like, you know, resolving billing disputes, bill paying, list management. You know, there's a whole bunch of little things that we're doing that are getting in the way of that. So in many ways, your ability to outsource or get rid of the rats and mice, the, you know, running errands, cleaning your house, which are vastly more preferable to actually physically do than to sit down and pick up the phone or go and make some of the hard calls or meet some of the people. You know, so your ability to get real with that and to free up your life enough that you can sit down and focus on the big rocks in your life is incredibly important. And what I notice most entrepreneurs doing is spending way too little time selling, and their excuse is all the other silly things they're doing, you know, filing, ordering supplies, appointment scheduling, etc. All of those things are what's taking up their time away from the things that they actually should be doing. So, yeah, and Jason said they would have enough cash flow to farm out everything else. Thank you, exactly. And Penny said they would be kicking butts, and they absolutely would be, yeah. So, you know, and if you think about it, the cash producing items in your business fix every other problem. You know, if you had cash pouring into your business right now, you can make almost every other problem you have go away. So really, cash is oxygen for a business. So taking up your time, or, you know, paying, you know, so I'm a huge believer in even one-man businesses getting into the habit of starting to outsource their worst jobs, even if they don't employ somebody full-time. If they hire a VA for 2 or 3 hours a month, you know, I like people to start getting into the habit and developing the muscles where they can get rid of the stupid stuff so that they can focus on the stuff that's actually going to make a difference. It's a good habit to get into. And I don't like people bankrupting themselves to do that. I think it always needs to be a percentage of revenue, but even 2 or 3 hours a month is starting to build the right muscles in the right direction. So, Tony, did you have a question, or did I forget to put your hand down? Okay. All right. Thank you. So let's move on. What I don't want to have happen, I've had people in the mastermind do this. I had one woman who wasn't bringing in any revenue whatsoever yet, and she'd hired 3 or 4 people. I don't think that's okay, especially because she was still kind of in the really early startup. She wasn't making sales. She didn't have proof of concept. That seems to me to be a pretty risky thing to do. And she ended up having to let all of them go. So anyway, that's a useful exercise that's there. And then the other thing that's in this guide, I found this very helpful when I was growing my business. And this comes from the book Traction by Gino Wickman, which is an excellent book. I do recommend everybody read it. It's called the EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's just a good book on growing businesses that are bigger than most of ours. You know, he really talks about the 5 to 50 person company more than the 0 to 5 person company. But it shows you what you're aiming for. It gives you a goalpost, which I think is really valuable. And this is his structure of pretty much any kind of a company, is you have at the top of the company, it's usually a CEO, but he makes a very good point that it's usually, this CEO is usually should be 2 people, because it's always a visionary, somebody who's got big ideas and big strategy, but there's usually an integrator as well who can make it happen. And most times that's not the same person. The person who has the big goals and the visionary and the strategy and the big picture often doesn't have the skills to actually make things happen on a daily basis. So very often there's 2 people there, and I think of Carrie with Tony. You know, she's got somebody who actually does the day-to-day running for her. So, but in many companies, this is just lumped together as a CEO. But then there's 3 major divisions, if you like. There's sales and marketing, operations, finance, and admin. And within each of these, there's going to be all of that work plus the management accountability, sales, marketing, and all the processes that go with it. Under operations is the delivery of your business. So it's your steady state operation with clients and, sorry, I hate it when I see a typo. So anything to do with your client delivery is going to come under operations, and anything to do with technology, office admin, finance, etc., is going to come under your finance admin department. But that just shows you, you know, when you start growing your business, many people start, you know, bringing in the first person might be a bookkeeper. That seems to be fairly common. You know, our business got to the point where I would hate to run without operations help because we have a lot going on. But it helps you start fully, you know, when you start, you're everything, but it helps you start breaking off logical chunks as you start growing. So I think that picture is helpful for that. And I think what's also helpful is knowing your own management style. So this would be cool in your Date with Destiny to ask who are ostriches and who are control freaks. And just so that I can show you, but who here are the control freaks? In other words, you don't believe anybody else can do things well enough. You tend to overwork and underhire. And you are likely to become the business bottleneck in your own business. But how many of you are that person? Thank you for being honest, guys. Yeah, most entrepreneurs actually fall into this bucket. So I'll tell you what the stats are here. We've only got 20% of the hands raised, but I'd be interested to. I think it might even be higher than that. So let me ask you this then: how many of you are the ostriches? Actually, let me put everybody's hands down because I think I didn't do that. Okay, raise your hand if you're an ostrich. So I'm seeing about 30%. So that means about 50% of you are on the fence. I'm an ostrich, by the way. I love ignoring problems, and it's a good thing for me to know. And so ostriches tend to throw money at problems rather than understanding them and fixing them, and they can waste time and money by doing all the wrong things. So neither of them are all good or all bad. But if you are the control freak type, remember that you can stop the growth of your business. And there really is a limit to what any one person can do. So there's a point at which, you know, you really do need to try and let go of everything. And the other thing we just wanted to talk about here really was the cadence of meetings. This recommendation actually comes from the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, by Chet Holmes. It's another really good book that I like. But he talks about managing a rapidly growing company, and I love this. As soon as you get staff, one of the more, you know, overwhelming things is meetings. You know, because all of a sudden you're busy and now you've got to have meetings with people to communicate. But he suggests picking focus areas, whether it's sales or technology or an event you have coming up, and getting every single person who's involved with that event to come to the event meeting once a week or once a month if that's better, and trying not to discuss it any other time. So it does tend to, let's talk about this at this meeting and then let's let it go so everybody can get on with work. But we followed that inside my company, and I've really, really enjoyed it, If something's urgent, people can talk to me about it, but for the most part, everybody's really good about waiting until the appropriate meeting in order to discuss things. Because batching your time is going to be one of the best things you ever do. And then processes and systems. Your systems will set you free as you grow. They provide a way for you to bring people in and out of your business without chaos and for you to have to stop reinventing the wheel. And I don't really want to talk about process and systems here, but I mention it because it usually starts happening around about the time your team starts growing. But I would be on the lookout for things you can automate in your business. I definitely, once you start getting a team, you kind of want to start centralizing your data and systems so that everybody's using one version of everything and you don't start having version controls and access issues and so on. But I would start documenting everything that you routinely do. And it doesn't have to be a big deal, but I mean, example, a packing list to go to your meetup. Every time something goes wrong, you go and add it to the packing list or you change something on the packing list. But over a year or two of that packing list will be an amazing routine that will allow a brand new employee to come in and get it right. So that's what I mean by documenting. I don't want you guys spending ages of time doing documentation. It's a really good task for some of your staff to do. Whatever they do, have them documented. But the main thing is if you do things routinely, it is actually worth your while starting to get that stuff documented. And then, you'll also find that while your team's growing, your tools are going to start, you're going to start needing additional tools. And some of the ones, this is by no means an exhaustive list at all. And Sam, don't you want to see if you can dig up the list of all the tools that we recommend and just share it in the coaching toolbox here? And you are welcome to share this with your team if it's helpful. Is all the top 6 tools that we actually recommend. But here are some of the ones that are just very prevalent. But appointment management, it's so tedious trying to set up appointments with clients and vendors and everybody who needs to see you. TimeTray is one we've loved. Calendly is great. There's a whole bunch these days. TimeTray is one of the old school ones. There's actually a whole bunch of nice ones. But if you Google, calendar management or calendar appointments, there'll be a whole slew of them. Project management starts becoming a deal when you have staff. So Asana is a nice tool, Basecamp, Central Desktop. Email and shopping cart management. If you're big and bigger, like well over 100,000, things like Infusionsoft or Aweber, and those are starting to be a good deal. If you're smaller, one shopping cart's great. If you're very small, like under 50K, PayPal and things like that offer enough to keep you going. So file management becomes quite the deal when you have staff. So I don't know what we'd have done without Dropbox. It's an amazing tool because everybody can get to all the company data, but Google Drive is pretty good as well. So, but those 2 tools I think have saved the world of small business. And then calendars and emails, obviously the team needs to be able to see each other, and we love Google's calendars for a team. I love that you can click them on and off. I love that, you can overlay multiple calendars together. So it's just really conducive to a small team being able to share utilities. So I think some of those tools might be useful. I'm seeing lots of questions and hands. Let me go and have a look at the panel. Yes, would I mind repeating the name of the book with the cadence meetings? This is actually one of my very favorite books. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine, and it's by Chet Holmes, and it has a number of things in it that I often recommend to people, Laura. It shows you how to hire good salesmen. It's got a really good chapter on that. It's got this really good chapter on running meetings and trying to minimize the chaos of confusion and communication that happens in a small business. And the thing that I like best is it actually outlines the Dream 100 strategy. I think he invented it. So all in all, it's a really good read, mostly for businesses a little bit bigger than ours, but I really do think The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes is a really good book. So moving on, we also have a little piece in here about hiring a stellar team. And, you know, I think it's extremely difficult for tiny businesses to hire because most of us are so busy that stopping and hiring, we don't have HR departments, we don't have everything it takes. But this is a little process that I've used many times, and I like the process. I actually think it's a really good process. And I was interested to see that it's very similar to a process some much bigger entrepreneurs than me are using. I actually was at a Darren Hardy conference recently, and you know, he has looked at the best of the best in so many companies, and his is almost identical to mine. There's one difference that I'll show you, and this is what he would recommend in much bigger companies as well. But first of all, it's worth putting some attention and energy into creating a really good ad, you know, job description, and this is what I'm looking for. So I would make a good job of that, not, you know, not just a quick one-liner. And advertising, I don't think you need to get crazy with all the employment websites. They're actually a little bit overwhelming. But we've had pretty good success on Craigslist and LinkedIn. LinkedIn you have to pay, but it's not a huge amount compared with the cost of a bad hire. So they can be pretty effective. I think it's about $300-ish to put an ad, to run an ad on LinkedIn, and you get very high quality responses. And in the appendix, we've got an example of an online business or a dream business manager for a one-man business. So we've got an example of what that job post might look like. I'll show that to you in a sec. But you will definitely get a lot of resumes, and I think it's useful for you or a staff member, if you have one, to go and pick out the top 10 resumes. It's not really that hard to go and pick out the top 10. So if you've got somebody to delegate screening your resumes to, great. If you don't, you'll just have to do it yourself. But at that point, I would invite the top 10 applicants to a meeting. And you could do this live at a local coffee shop, or you could do it by webinar, which is what I've always done. And at that meeting, you present all about your company, all about the job opening, what's cool, what's challenging, you know, and I do a good job of this. I'd put in what you're passionate about. Let them see what's exciting about your company. Be honest about the characteristics that will help the applicant succeed. I'd go into details about the job and the job offer, you know, the money. But at that point, everybody knows the same thing, and you've only had to do it once at this point. And at that point, this is, I think, where it gets interesting. I invite people to submit an application, but I test their skills in the application. So I think of tasks they need to do the job. And I come up with about 2 hours worth of work that I actually want them to do for me. And so I'll say, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and I will pay you for your application. So a finished application, I will give you $40. It's $20 an hour. It's not very much, but it's, you know, it's at least it's a courtesy. And I would give them fairly quick turnaround time, you know, 24 hours or 48 hours to actually do the work. But I'm really trying to eliminate anybody who's not mad keen to get the job here, and anybody who's not very competent. And this does a really good job of it. I told you I would show you what was different between what I did and what Darren Hardy taught. But Darren Hardy taught people to submit a video saying, and the work. So he did all the work, but they also had to submit a video saying why they were right for the job. So you could see them, you could see how they showed up, you could see how they met the video challenge. And he actually had one guy he was hiring to do videography for him, or to produce all his videos, and he showed us that video, and it was absolutely phenomenal. You know, that came in right at the interview. The guy had gone and stolen every piece of clip he could find on the internet of Darren, and he'd woven it together into this incredible movie. So it was, you know, it's amazing what you'll get back from people. And he actually also showed us, I thought this actually wasn't really okay to show us this, but he actually showed us some of the goofier applications he got from, like, just total losers, really. So it was hilarious. It probably wasn't that cool to show it to a class, though. But So I think that's a good upgrade. It's not what's in the manual, but I think it's a good upgrade. But, you know, and so many of you guys always say, where did I find Sam? How did I find Sam? This is how I found Sam. I actually didn't want a young guy. I wanted a middle-aged woman who was good at looking after people. And I told Sam that. And Sam, can you remember what tasks I had you do?
Yeah, so I think the 3 items that were important, I think, for this role, initially at least, was customer service. So one of the tasks was responding to a hypothetical client email and seeing how I would respond and approach that challenge. I think another one...
And it actually wasn't a hypothetical email. It was a real situation that we'd had.
Might have been, right.
And I was kind of curious to see how you would have handled it, yeah.
Right. Another one was, you know, there was going to be some technical aspect to the business or to the role. So having my capability of developing a landing page for an upcoming speaking event for a speaker that we were going to be hosting. And so I created a landing page with kind of a bio and actually even, I think I might have even purchased a URL and got it all up online so that she could see it. So that was one thing. And then I think the final thing was coming up with a list of items to be creative around a trade show booth to see kind of what I would be creative with coming up with kind of a marketing component of the role as well. Does that sound about right, Tommy?
Yep, I think that's what it was. You know, and honestly, we really only had, of our original 10 resumes, we really only had 3 people that submitted everything in on time. And I just discontinued everybody else. You know, one guy put it in 2 days later, but I didn't want that. So that cost me, you know, about $120 to pay them. That is nothing when you're trying to make a good hire with the amount of time you're going to go and put into this person. And I will tell you that even though I wasn't that crazy about hiring a younger guy at the time, Sam's application blew me away. I mean, it was amazing. And so he totally won it fair and square. And today, Sam's a partner in this business, you know, so it turned out to be a very good decision for both of us. But what was interesting is his landing page and all of that. I had another guy who was an IT manager who wanted the job, and Sam's creativity was way better. It was really easy to see because he'd done the tasks, and you know, so I actually really like this. And the other thing is it's kind on your time because it's very difficult for you to actually find that any one man, not just you, but your clients as well, they're busy. So if I'd had to sit down, I don't know how in those days when I was doing all of that hiring, if I'd have had to go and have 10 different interviews, and that would have just been totally overwhelming for a tiny business. But, you know, and much as I'm so good, yeah, I think Sam's one of the best things that ever happened to me my entire life. So I'm really glad I got him. But in truth, I think all of the top 3 applicants would probably have they'd been able to do the job. But it was clear to me that Sam was the right one at that point. So it's a little bit unique. I'm not sure it's what every HR manager would love, but it fits the small business really, really well. So we share it here. And I do want to say, you know, you've got other options. You know, these days, you know, one of the considerations is, do I want to hire local and do I want to hire virtual? You know, so what we've found is local hires have the huge advantage of arms and legs. So yes, you can hire any skill virtually all over the United States, but most one-man businesses sometimes need somebody to fetch and carry and pick up and drop off, and so the hands and legs is actually a consideration that I just want to add. Virtual is great, but it's all the better if I prefer having virtual local so that if I need them to show up somewhere they can. Offshore is so inexpensive. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can hire somebody in the Philippines for about $600 a month full time. You know, so, you know, and some people feel strongly about offshore, and I'm not making any political statements here. I'm just saying that, you know, it's one of the considerations. The 1099 is a contractor. And then you can obviously have a full-time employee. I always think, you know, I've got a little note here that says we recommend dating before you get married because the cost of a bad hire is incredibly expensive. So it's usually a good idea to have somebody be a 1099 for a few months before they become an employee, because it's vastly easier to get rid of somebody if they're a 1099. You don't have to pay them, extra when you let them go and so on. So, so I think all of those are just things you probably want to think about. But the other thing that we just included in this workbook, everybody wants the right-hand man, the business manager when you run a one-man business. I think this is a really good fit for most of your clients, as many of them want the dream business manager. So we put in a sample job specification here that they can use to model if they actually want to go out. So you can see it's detailed. We look at personal qualities, like what sort of human being is this, we look at the job scope. We look at, here are the hardware platform, tool platforms that we currently use. Here's the job description of the actual tasks. So this isn't just, there was a lot of work put into this. And special conditions, you must have a computer with a solid internet connection and print and scan if you don't want to buy it for them. A few days a month you must be willing to get up and go to BNI at 7 o'clock in the morning, And I may need support in the evenings, I will hire initially for a 90-day trial period if this goes well. Then we'll continue as a team. So there's, so you can put quite a bit of detail in that if you want to. So that's really the nuts and bolts of what's in the lecture guide. So I hope that would give you fun teaching that. And Katie has a warning here. So let me actually just open up Katie's line and let her tell you herself. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
Hi, guys. Many of you may know that I have owned 2 companies previously. But if you don't, I owned 2 companies previously, and they were in staffing. So since we're talking about hiring, I just wanted to send out a warning that as you or your clients are growing, the days of 1099 audits has also risen. It used to be really easy to work with 1099s for the very specific reasons that Tony mentioned. It's easier to get them on and off your books without having to worry about insurance or payroll or any of those things. As you are growing, just make sure your clients know that they need to have like a 10-point checklist as to why this person is really a 1099 and not an employee. The worst thing ever would be to be audited and have 10 1099s on payroll, really, but you put them as payroll, not as employees. The IRS doesn't like that. If you guys have any questions about this for you or your clients, feel free to send me a Facebook message.
Well, thank you for that offer, Katie. Yeah, Katie's an expert in this, but I remember even at IBM, we had to be really careful that our employees were treated differently to our contractors. So, IBM did weird things like our contractors never got brand new computers. They always got hand-me-downs, and we always had to be able to show, what was different. So, and there's many things that actually need to be different. So you never want to treat them all the same because they ain't. Good. Well, I think that really handles the workbook. So when you lead a Set Your Date with Destiny, there's a lot of stuff for discussion there, and I always like the discussion module as much as anything different. Jory, yes, that's a different Katie. She's actually pretty close to you. She actually lives down, and so Jory meet Katie, Katie meet Jory. You girls need to get together sometime. You don't live very far apart from each other. But Jory's our Maryland coach, Katie. And
yes.
She's asked, so, you guys have talked before. Yes, it's that Katie. All right, good. So Jory was just wondering which Katie that was. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that down, guys. There's 2 other things I want to do before we disband for today. But we have such an amazing set of tools in our toolbox. Sorry, let me just save this. No, I'll do it later. It's fighting me. So if we go back to our... I went to a funny place. Hang on, give me half a sec. So we're going back to the toolbox. If you're going to running the Mastermind program, I like to show you some tools each month just so that you can be aware of them. And I try roughly to organize the tools roughly with the module that we're doing. So if you go into binder 3, running the mastermind program, which is where all your client-facing information is, there's a whole folder called Coaching Tools to Use with a Client. And there's one of the folders is called Building, Managing a Team, and 10Xing. But I want to show you what's in there. So and let me start at the bottom because actually the longer ones are all at the top. But some of them are just pictures that we've already got that we've already spoken through. So for example, this little, if you ever want to just pull out that particular document or hand it out as a talk, we've put this one in here because I think it's very relevant. We pop it in all over the place because we seem to talk about this all the time. Because whatever topic we're talking about, it has relevance. The tasks to consider delegating, we've pulled that out because often we've noticed our coaches like to use it when they're on stages or when they're giving an event. You can use it as a little add-on exercise. There's a freebie document that Infusionsoft gives out. I just think this is an amazing document, but it talks about the 7 stages of small business success. And I'll show you what it looks like here, but it really just shows you what, there are 22 million one-man businesses in America today. And if you just look at their clip levels here, it's interesting. They go 0 to 100K at one person, but by the time they go 100 to 300, there's 2 or 3 people there. Okay. And look at the massive drop in numbers. It goes from 22 million to 1.7 million. And they really talk about what the major challenge is or the success factor, but our crew is struggling with time. That's their challenge. And if they can get enough of control on their time, that they actually start doing the right things to generate sales, then, the thing that's going to take you higher is going to be salesmanship. Once you get over 300K, it becomes marketing and service. Once you get over 1 million, at that point, you've got enough employees. You're running a 10-man organization at this point. Then it starts becoming setting the vision, mission, values, etc. And, once you get over the 5 million mark, everything's hiring, and are you hiring to your vision? So I think it's a really neat little document, and then they describe each phase, but it's good for you to know this. I just thought it was a really neat document, so I just wanted to share it with you and use it however you like. So internal systems review, I think it just sort of pulls together. What did I do there? Hang on a sec. That's what I wanted to do. It just really shows you, where you are with your systems. So it's a neat little document. I think this probably got synthesized somewhat from Tina Forsyth's amazing little book. Can't even remember what it's called. Do you remember what it's called, Sam? But she talks about the systems you should have as an entrepreneur, and you want to build up to all of these, but you're going to need sort of backup of data, people, websites. You're going to need financial systems. You're going to need scheduling systems. You're going to need communication systems, metric systems, marketing systems. You're going to need relationship, sales, delivery, business foundation, like legal and tax and that. So, I mean, if, and I always like you guys to think about taking one tool to your Date with Destinies. It should be interesting for you guys to see. I would not expect anybody in the 0 to 100K range to have all of these systems, but they should be starting to think about them. They probably have some. They probably have some sort of social media system or follow-up system. So they'll be starting to have a rudimentary sales funnel. So these will be starting, but it's nice to see where you're going to end up. Entrepreneurial earnings, this is just a slide. I think it's interesting, but it just shows you, 6% of America's businesses are well under 1 million, 90% are under 100K. This is earnings, but it just shows you how few, there's only 17,000 businesses in this country that went over 50 million. So just interesting. And then some of the charts that were in today, if you wanted to pull it out and have it as a handout, we've done that for you. Then there's 2 documents here that I want you to be aware of. I love this business plan. It's a 2-page job, which is kind of the business planning that I think is appropriate for tiny businesses. I don't like these huge 200-page business plans because they tend to be obsolete from the day they were written. But this comes from Gino Wickman's book Traction, again, and it really is a 2-page look at what are we all about, what's important to us, what's our focus, what's our niche, what's our 10-year target, who's our target market, what are the 3 things that are unique about us, what's our proven process, and then you really go through what's the 3-year picture, because that needs to be somewhat clear. And then the only thing you really focus on is your 1-year picture. You know, so you literally have, here's our 1-year plan, here are our big rocks, and then you go through what are the rocks for each quarter, the issues, etc. So this is much more the kind of planning that's amazing to do with your clients. Makes an amazing VIP day, by the way, to spend a whole day pulling together this plan. And by the way, my team does this. We do this internally once a year. We spend one whole day pulling together the plan and one whole day looking at issues and things that we need to fix. So it's actually a 2-day kickoff that we have once a year. And then the last thing I wanted to show you in the toolbox, I'm just trying to familiarize you with what's in here. I love this story. And I actually think we have time today for me to read this story. So let me take a poll here. How many of you would like me to read this 2-page story to you? Let me put everybody's hands down. Or how many of you would prefer to read it on your own? So if you would like me to read it to you now, put your hand up. If we get over 50%, I will do it. All right, I will do it. Thank you. It actually is easier to have somebody do it than to have to do it on your own. But this story sure as heck stopped me in my tracks, and it comes from that same book by Robert Kiyosaki. So once upon a time, there was this quaint little village. It was a great place to live, except for one problem. The village had no water unless it rains. To solve this problem once and for all, the village elders asked contractors to submit bids to deliver water to the village on a daily basis. 2 people volunteered to take on the task, and the elders awarded the contract to both of them. They felt a little competition would keep prices low and ensure a backup supply of water. The first person who won the contract, Ed, immediately ran out, bought 2 galvanized steel buckets, and began running backwards and forwards to the lake, which was a mile away. He immediately began making money as he labored morning to dusk, hauling water from the lake with his 2 buckets. He would empty them into the large concrete holding tank the village had built. Each morning he had to get up before the rest of the village awoke to make sure there was enough water for the people. It was hard work, but he was happy to be making money and for having one of the 2 exclusive contracts for the business. The second winning contractor, Bill, disappeared. He wasn't seen for months, which made Ed very happy since he had no competition. Instead of buying 2 buckets to compete with Ed, Bill wrote a business plan, a 2-page business plan. He created a corporation, found 4 investors, employed a president to do the work, and returned 6 months later with a construction crew. Within a year, his team had built a large volume stainless steel pipeline which connected the village to the lake. At the grand opening, Bill announced that his water was cleaner than Ed's. Bill knew that the villagers had complained about the water's lack of cleanliness. Bill had also announced that he could supply the village with water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Ed could only deliver water on weekdays because he didn't want to work on the weekends. Then, Bill announced that he would charge 75% less than Ed did for this higher quality, more reliable water. The villagers cheered and immediately ran for the faucet at the end of Bill's pipeline. In order to compete, Ed immediately lowered his rates by 75%, bought 2 more buckets, added covers to his buckets, and began hauling 4 buckets each trip. In order to provide a better service, he hired his 2 sons to give him a hand on the night shift and the weekends. When the boys went off to college, he said to them, "Hurry back, because someday this business will belong to you." For some reason, his sons never returned. I don't know why I like this story, but I do. Eventually, Ed had employees and union problems. The union demanded higher wages and better benefits and wanted its members to only haul 1 bucket at a time. Meanwhile, Bill realized that if this village needed water, then other villages must need water too. He rewrote his business plan. He went off to sell his high-speed, high-volume, low-cost, clean water delivery system to villages throughout the world. He only makes a penny per bucket of water delivered, but he delivers billions of buckets of water every day. Whether he works or not, billions of people consume billions of buckets of water, and all that money pours into his bank account. Bill developed a pipeline to deliver money to himself as well as the water to the villagers. Bill lived happily ever after. Ed worked hard for the rest of his life and had financial problems forever after. The end. So, so thank you for indulging me while I read that story. I just think it's a great story, especially with this particular module when we're talking about, do we want to be freelancers, or do we actually want to have something that's going to work when we don't? And again, no right or wrong answer, but it is something that you actually want to think about. Let me see if there are any comments or questions on the story. Laura enjoyed it. She said that was fabulous. And Jory had to run. She always uses the story at her Date with Destiny. And the book that I was talking about from Forsyth, Tina Forsyth, was called The Entrepreneur's Trap. Thank you, Jory. So that's where those systems came from, but that was really the source of that. She does a really good job discussing that. So, so good deal, and I think this will be, and yes, I want to be Bill too, Katie. That makes sense to me. So, good, and I'm glad you like the story too. I just think it's a very telling story. You know, sometimes a story is a good thing. So, so this will be Katie's first Date with Destiny, so we can wish her luck on that. It's a neat story to start out, or a neat topic to start out with. All right, guys, so the very last thing I'm going to do here, and I think I'm still going to get you out of here a tad early, is once a month you need to deliver to your clients a business tip, because we promise that we will do this in our brochure as part of the Top 6 program. So all your business tips are in folder 3 running the Mastermind program. And shockingly, there's a folder called Monthly Business Tips. And they're all in there. And we have numbered them, not that it really matters which you send out, but some business tips kind of go with the topic that month and some kind of don't. This one doesn't really. So, and just a reminder to those of you that are new with us, we provide this in Word format so that you can go in and add your own bits and pieces or anything that you'd like to add. And as always, you don't have to, you do need to send out a tip if you've sold it via the Mastermind brochure. You don't have to use mine if you prefer to use other stuff, but we do provide these ready written tips, and I put a bit of work into these. Most of them are pretty good. So this one really is talking about VIP days and how good they are for getting the revenue flowing. And guys, this was something that I've used. It's a technique I've used to really help entrepreneurs get money flowing in their business. Remember, cash is oxygen. We want this really quickly. So I will quickly read this to you, and then we're done for today. So, so I'm imagining you'll copy this and send it out to your clients once a month. So cash flow is a huge challenge for most entrepreneurs. That's why this month's tip is an instant lifesaver and game changer for so many entrepreneurs. I do not know of any other business tip more likely to get revenue, and I'm talking big dollars, multiple thousands every month, flowing quickly and relatively easily into your business. Interested? You should be. The purpose of this month's business tip is to help you create a VIP offering that gets results for your clients, price it based, this shouldn't really be in, it should be kind of on the value that your clients receive, implement it right away and get money flowing into your business. Why I love VIP offerings so much. Every entrepreneur has a special performance zone that combines their passion, experience, talent, and skills best. We call this their genius zone. And your genius zone consists of tasks you love to do and are very good at. Chances are really high that your business is already based around this genius zone. Now imagine what happens if you take all the special talent and create a high-intensity VIP experience for your clients that uses you at your best and gets the client an amazing result, usually quite rapidly. And imagine what your client would be willing to invest in getting this help, and then imagine banking that check. Here's a good question to ask yourself to help choose what service to offer. What's the biggest problem that my target market faces that I've got a great solution for? Example, Ryan is a fabulous copywriter. This is a true example, by the way. However, he finds writing exceptional copy time-consuming and a bit lonely. So he has developed a business where he teaches others to do copywriting by webinar, writes popular blogs about copy, uses his own copy in a number of his own ventures. He also has a few products he's created on this topic and is hired for special one-off copywriting jobs. Ryan decides to use his Genius Zone to client's best advantage and create a VIP high-intensity experience. He creates an amazing one-day experience where he and a special client will huddle up for a day in a delightful location and revamp the client's entire marketing campaign. All his ads, sales, autoresponders, brochures, and even his website pages. I should add Ryan's actually a pay-per-click genius and conversion genius as well. So Ryan puts his inordinate talent to use and with the client edits and spruces up all their marketing info in just one day. This is a huge value to the client because copy is hard to do well and it's so expensive to hire copywriters. The client sees high value. He loves that by the end of the day it's done. He doesn't have to spend weeks educating or getting educated by the copywriter on his style and getting to know each other's businesses. They do it together. Wow. The client is treated to a lovely location, a special lunch, and is really bowled over by this unforgettable day in his life. Ryan actually finds this easy. Copywriting is so natural for him, it rolls off his tongue very fast, and he doesn't feel even nervous about the day. He's just excited. He's priced the day at a high price point, so he's happy to shower the client with a few luxuries to make the day even more special. Ryan charges $7,000 for this day, paid up front, or about $1,000 an hour, which is actually, it's hard to get an amazing copywriter at that price. This example illustrates the typical elements of a VIP offering. You're working privately or semi-privately with your best clients, working hands-on with their business and giving them the very best of you. You have imaginatively put out all the stops to create very high value and a totally unique experience. So here's 10 reasons why high-intensity VIP offerings rock. 1, they provide deep value for the clients. 2, and this is why they're kind of easy to sell, they provide very fast results for your clients. They're easy to execute. You don't have to create a webinar series and record it and sales pages and anything else. You just offer it. They're easy to sell. There's not much preparation. They're original and unique, which usually means no competition. They're excellent relationship builders with your clients. There's minimal follow-up or customer service required afterwards. They're great for beginners. So, this is a much better way for your clients in your mastermind program to start making money than to start creating, 10-part webinar series or, 6-month coaching programs. I mean, go and take the thing that they're best at and sell it now and get money pouring in the door. They can be extremely profitable. So some tips for creating unique VIP offerings: work privately, customize the content to the client, add luxurious touches, go deep, provide a rapid progress, work outside the box, get results, use your genius. The other thing that isn't here and probably should be is the done-for-you model is great. So I've done VIP days with clients on all sorts of things, but some of the more memorable ones I remember is getting a talk that sells together. So she actually leaves there with a whole talk, but she's picked my brain, on how to do everything. She's got all my templates, my formats, my expertise. We've priced the offering. We've done everything. We spend a whole day doing it. Doing a whole year's worth of business planning, designing a whole sales funnel, whatever it is, but you can really just go really deep in and do things. I actually love doing these. They're amazing to me. The simplest and best way to price your VIP offering is this. Charge a fair percentage of the value you will provide. We suggest 10% of the expected client value. Most early stage entrepreneurs balk at creating high price offerings and spend a lot of time messing about with low-end, inexpensive offerings which will never make them any money, thinking these will be easier to sell. This simply isn't the case. Remember, most early stage entrepreneurs are still figuring out how to sell effectively. Setting up a model where many sales is a necessity is a big mistake. So watch out for that in your clients, guys. This is a mistake they all make. It is often easier and more profitable to start your offering lineup with your high-end offerings in early stage business because they use your talent so well but don't need much setup or infrastructure. You can use your time and talent instead and get much needed revenue flowing to your business, plus some great testimonials too. How soon can you set up your first VIP experience? I'm going to challenge you to design one this week and sell it in the next 2 weeks and deliver it in the next 6. Yep. Yes, really, you don't need very much setup. You already know how to do this. You need a little time to imagine and decide how to make the event fabulous. Call all your favorite clients and offer it to them. And also offer this at your next few strategy sessions with prospects. And then be prepared to have a little celebration when your first big check comes in, because most people, it catches them unawares. They don't realize they can do this. I really love using this technique, particularly for entrepreneurs that are still in the 5 or early 6 figures. Have fun using it. You can thank me later. Much love. And you're going to put your name there. So actually, I think it's a really good tip. I think it's a really good tip. So good, guys. So here we are, perfectly arrived at 2 minutes before the hour. So we have a polite 2 minutes for questions or comments. And then you have done your marathon monthly training with Tommy Wolf. So let me have a look at the question panel and see what we got. I've got a couple of buys from some people. Jason said that was really good. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. And Laura was saying, I was just thinking about how a hairdresser would do a VIP offering, and now she's had an idea. And so let me ask Laura what her idea is, but I actually do have an idea for VIP days for hairdressers. So, but Laura, tell me what your idea was.
Yeah, I mean, as you were reading it, I was thinking about my hairdresser who's thinking about, I told him a little bit about Top 6, and even though I haven't really launched yet, but I think he might come on board. And I was just thinking, how would this relate to him, but of creating a luxury day where he can also help his clients do this. You know, if they can't come in regularly, he talks about some of his clients can't afford to come in all the time, and so they do it after predictable times of cash flow are good for them. But how does he create that kind of experience where they're getting they can learn to do some things for themselves. So it's almost like a class. I'm thinking out loud, thinking like a class.
No, you're exactly right. I've done this. I've physically actually had, you know, when I first started getting on stage, I got somebody to come help me with my hair, and I couldn't believe what this woman could do with my hair because I couldn't. And I actually said to her, please come spend a day with me. Please just come show me how to do what you're doing, because I can't always bring you in, but I would like my hair to look like that. And she literally spent a day showing me, A, how to blow dry my hair, and B, how to create simple updos, and, you know, how to go from, you know, curls one day to smooth the next, and so on. It was amazing, and I was prepared to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, you know, where they kind of teach yourself how to do this, and, you know, he could even go with them down to Target and get the right curling irons and the right styling things. And, you know, so you can add in a whole bunch of creativity there, but it really is just good.
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you. I mean, it made me think of him. So I was thinking about if I said this to him, how would it resonate? So appreciate it.
Good. And then Jason's saying, you know, he should put together his own VIP days. Guys, let me show you, you know, this is in our VIP day training already, but just as a little quick refresher for you here, those that need to run can run, but just as a refresher, I do think you guys should always think about selling VIP days. And the way you sell them is just a straight coaching package. And the best VIP days, honestly, are 2 half days. But when you sell a VIP coaching package, which you can sell on its own or you can sell with a silver program if you like, just go into the Dropbox here. Let me show you, and because this is selling, we're going to be back in folder 2, which is selling. Actually, I don't think it is there. I think it's actually, for whatever reason, I think I put it under coaching. Private coaching. So we've got a couple of things here, but your sample private coaching contract, you can use this to sell a VIP day happily. It's already got 6 hours in or 8 hours. You can edit it. I'll show you where it is in the thing. So we sell this as 8 15-minute coaching sessions spread through the year, or 6 on a day, or they can have a morning now and a morning later. So, and whenever you sell a coaching practice or a coaching VIP day, the big thing to remember for our coaches is don't undercut your mastermind program, because you will stop selling the mastermind program. So I will always sell it like your private coaching fee is $8,000. If they pay in full, they can get $5,000 for the day. That's the same price as a silver. And many times, guys, selling the silver is, when you're selling, you always want to do the best thing for the client, okay? So a silver will actually get them vastly more. I mean, it's a whole year's worth of programming. It really helps them implement, which is where they're weak. They will get, you know, retreats and Q&A and the whole Date with Destiny. So they get a lot more in the silver. But the reason why sometimes the VIP thing is a better thing to sell is if they're in a hurry, or if they have one specific need. And I have many times sold both the private coaching VIP day plus a silver. So come in fast, let's get your immediate need taken care of, but I don't want to leave you there. You know, most people need help implementing for a full year. So selling this and a silver, that's a 10K package. It's less than a diamond. They don't get the VIP days, but you can plug and play these together, if that makes sense. But don't make the mistake of undercutting your silver program. What I have occasionally done, I don't love doing this, but I have occasionally sold a half a day VIP day at half of this price. So it's $4,000 for the morning, and if you pay in full, it's $2,500. So you could do that, but it's, you know, I'm always cautious of undercutting your most inexpensive program, because it tends to, you know, hurt your sales. So good. Well, thank you. That is great. And a VIP contract can also be used to upsell the mastermind, or as an education tool on the options for coaching hours and practices. Correct. So thank you, guys. I think that we have covered a lot of really good content today. It's been lovely spending this time with you. And thank you for all the thank you comments that are coming in. I really appreciate that. And good. Lovely. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.